Good evening, everyone. For Telesur English, I'm Sarah Begum in Caracas, Venezuela. Venezuela has announced it is easing currency controls by allowing dollars to be bought and sold through banks and brokerage houses. Importers of vital goods such as food and medicine will still have access to the official exchange rate of 6.3 bolivars to the dollar. Importers of other products considered part of the basic basket of essential goods will be able to buy dollars at a rate initially set at 12 bolivars to the dollar. The third exchange rate, called Simadi, will effectively be a free market where all can take part, with the intention of eliminating the highly speculative parallel market.
It's a completely free system where people will supply and demand foreign currency. The market will set the rate. For example, in the money exchange bureaus where people change the money sent by their families abroad or other small transactions. And there will be more than 3,700 such exchange bureaus in both state and private banks, as well as money changers, serving both individuals and companies.
The member states of UNISOR have expressed their strong opposition to the US bill that imposes unilateral sanctions against Venezuela. The group stated that the measures targeting unnamed Venezuelan officials infringe on the principle of non-intervention and contribute to instability in Venezuela and Latin America in general. A peace delegation of the US activist group Code Pink is in Cuba on a mission to help improve the country's relations with the US. Code Pink has arrived in Havana, bringing along some 150 reporters, scholars, and activists. They will meet with Cuban officials and with members of the recently released Cuban Five, who are in prison in the US. The organization calls on the US government to end all travel restrictions, close the Guantanamo Bay base, and remove Cuba from its list of state sponsors of terrorism.
We also think it's important that we work when we go back to push that Cuba be taken off the terrorist list. There is a State Department report that's supposed to come out in March that is supposed to advise President Obama on whether Cuba still belongs on that terrorist list. And we want to be ready for when that report comes out by putting out educational work and organizing and lobbying for Cuba to be taken off the list.
Staying in Cuba, the Historical Commission of Armed Conflict and Colombian Victims gave their final reports on the causes and origins of the violence. As part of the meeting, the FARC guerrillas said that they will respect their unilateral ceasefire indefinitely and urged the government of President Juan Manuel Santos to stop the hostilities as both sides discussed the issue of reparations for victims as part of the peace talks aimed at ending more than half a century of conflict.
Que llamamos al presidente Santos a no persistir en su peligroso juego.
We call on President Santos to not pursue his dangerous game of hostilities, which every day threatens our humanitarian gesture. And we ask not to postpone the decision agreeing to a bilateral ceasefire, because it's what the vast majority of Colombians want.
Como es el deseo expresado por la
Bolivia's President Evo Morales stands out as the third most popular world leader, with 75% support, according to a Spanish survey. Ecuador's Rafael Correa and Russian President Vladimir Putin came first and second.
We've received information from the Association of Spanish Communication Policy. In a study of the ranking of presidents of the world, our president, Evo Morales, came in third place with 75% support. This support cannot be anything other than approval of his leadership. These numbers cannot be anything other than a reflection of the work we have done and that our president has overseen. This is the very first exchange between the new Greek government and the Eurogroup. It's the first opportunity to talk with the newly elected government in a wider circle with the Eurozone partners and the European Council and the informal European Council. So based on the latest talks we had, our expectations are low that any final agreement will be reached.
Ecuador has rejected a decision by the Andean Community of Nations to eliminate protectionist measures on trade with Colombia and Peru. Our correspondent in Quito, Liz Scherfius, reports.
Ecuador has rejected Resolution 1762 by the Andean Community of Nations, which would prohibit Ecuador from applying exchange safeguards to its neighbors Colombia and Peru. An official statement has been released claiming that the decision by the regional body is outside its jurisdiction as it goes against the Cartagena Agreement and will affect national industry.
Logically, this is going to affect the diversification of the economy. This diversification means products of better quality and variety. So, what does this mean? That while diversifying the economy, we need to create products that are not only of better quality, but that are more competitive. And industry in the two countries, as much as in Peru as in Colombia, are much larger.
Ecuador has had a safeguard of 21% for Colombian imports and 7% for Peru since January 5th to protect against currency devaluation against the dollar. One Ecuadorian industry expected to feel the effects of the lifting of the safeguards are textiles, now having to compete against its larger and more established neighbors, Colombia and Peru.
The dependence of our textile and manufacturing in general is related to importations. Yes, to say that, for example, from cotton we produce thread here. That is basically made from imported prime materials from many countries. So the impact of the tariffs on prime materials have repercussions on the costs of the final product. And obviously, we lose competitivity with our neighbors.
To continue diversifying its economy and supporting local industry, Ecuador is appealing the decision of the Andean Community of Nations in an effort to control prices for consumers and maintain the strength of the national economy. Liz Scherfius, Telesur, Ecuador.
The Honduran government has been described as authoritarian by a recent study. We go to Gerardo Torres for this report.
The study by the University of Vanderbilt presented in Honduras assures that this Central American country is ruled by a stable authoritarian political system where all the state is subjected to a strict control by the president and that the political opposition only moves in restricted spaces that don't put the present control at risk.
This rate of stable authoritarian system means that the people agree to accept authoritarian measures if this helps to face and reverse their need for security.
In Honduras, there is a political opposition that garnered 70% of the vote in the last elections in 2013, in spite of which it has almost no participation in the present government that is controlled by the ruling Nationalist Party and the armed forces.
In Honduras, a struggle for power has always existed, and democracy has always been a secondary alternative. It appears that violence and the interests of powerful groups have been established.
According to the academics, people have a strong confidence in the local governments and an increasing assumption of a national political system that allows for almost no critics, and it is based on the promise of security. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
Greece and the Eurogroup are preparing for a key meeting on Wednesday to discuss Greek debt and the future of a bailout package imposed by the EU and the IMF. During a meeting between Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras and Austrian Chancellor Werner Faymann, Tsipras stated his wish to achieve a compromise over debt solutions. For his part, Faymann said Europe must find a way to keep Greece in the Eurozone while holding Athens to its commitments under the international bailout.
I'm sure that there will be an agreement with our partners on the basis of our plan. Though we have not heard anything in particular or a viable alternative proposal, I do not believe that there is no reason that there will be an agreement between Greece and its partners. There would only be political reasons.
The EU sees little chance of any final pact to resolve the debt standoff with the new Greek government at meetings in Brussels this week. A European Commission spokeswoman said German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble also said that if Greece did not want a new aid programme, then that's it.
This is the very first exchange with the new Greek government, the Eurogroup. It's the first opportunity to talk with the newly elected government in the bigger circle with the Eurozone partners. And the European Council is an informal European Council. So on the basis of these latest talks that we had, our expectations are low that any final agreements will be reached.
Morgen werden wir verbindlich hören.
That, of course, means that those 2 months will help Greece fulfill what wasn't fulfilled by the end of last year. Just after that one could then, If necessary, if anybody has the wish or is interested in, speak about it. When I put that onto the comments that have emerged in public, nothing fits together, but then we don't have a program.
Protesters at the G20 meeting in Turkey marched with flags of the left-wing Freedom and Solidarity Party and of Greece's ruling party Syriza. The group marched toward the Istanbul Congress Center, where the summit was taking place. A clash broke out when police intervened and ordered them to disband. At the meeting, finance ministers presented a rather gloomy assessment of prospects for global economic growth. They pledged to enact fiscal and monetary policies to prevent stagnation. Following the deaths of 29 migrants from exposure on the deck of an Italian vessel in the Mediterranean Sea on Monday, the government of Italy appealed for a more vigorous European response to the migration crisis. The UN agency said 3,528 migrants had crossed the Mediterranean to Italy last month, up from 2,171 in the same month last year. Syrians account for almost a quarter. According to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the European Union needs to take steps to protect the lives of migrants.
And this is a strong reminder to what happened in 2013 when more than 600 people have died. So this is a strong reminder because at that time everybody was saying that strong search and rescue operation was needed to cope with an increasing influx of migrants and refugees. This is the situation now. We need a proper solution from the European Union to save lives in the Mediterranean.
35 sub-Saharan migrants have jumped the border fence that divides the Spanish city of Melilla and Morocco. 600 migrants tried scaling the fence during the night. Out of the 35 who succeeded, 5 needed immediate medical attention. The migratory pressure takes place right after Moroccan government's decision to dismantle the camps of sub-Saharan refugees. The Spanish-Moroccan border remains closed. In Palestine, some good news as truckloads of food and aid are due to arrive in the coming days. We go to Noor Harazin for this update.
The head of the Gaza's Goods Coordination Commission, Ra'ed Fattouh, said that around 400 truckloads of much-needed food, humanitarian aid and fuel are scheduled to enter the coastal enclave today. The goods will cross through the Kerem Shalom entry point, which the Israeli authorities have kept open for a second day in a row. In Gaza, Palestinians have continued their boycott campaigns against Israeli goods, which is called 16%. The group in charge of the campaign shared critical information about the benefits of the boycott. They say that 16% of the sales go to funding the Israeli Defense Forces, which means that Gazans are providing the resources for Tel Aviv's operations against them. In the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority officially decided to ban the entry into occupied territories of Israeli goods produced by 6 major Jewish companies. 2 of the most famous Israeli companies which will be banned are Tinova, which produces dairy products, and Elite, which produces chocolates and candies. The Palestinian Authority's decision is in response to the ongoing Israeli attacks against the Palestinian people and their violations of the Palestinian-Israeli agreements. Noor Harazin, Telesu TV, Gaza.
U.S. health authorities urge everyone to vaccinate their children in the recent wake of measles outbreak due to some parents believing vaccines against deadly diseases are dangerous. Many people who don't vaccinate their children say they fear a triple vaccine for measles, mumps and rubella is responsible for increasing cases of autism, a theory repeatedly disproven by various studies and by American health officials.
There have been dozens of studies of vaccines and the question of autism. Vaccines don't cause autism. They are highly effective and safe and are a good way to protect your children from vaccine-preventable diseases. We need a strong...
The number of internally displaced in Libya has soared from an estimated 60,000 at the beginning of 2014 to 400,000 by mid-November, according to the United Nations. The majority of the displaced people have abandoned their houses due to the violence in the country since the assassination of the former leader Muammar Gaddafi in October 2011. The United Nations report depicts a country suffering from increasing turmoil and lawlessness, inflamed by a multitude of competing, heavily armed groups and a broadening political crisis. On an upbeat note, in Brazil, mothers are taking positive action to end violence in soccer games. A soccer club in the northern city of Recife enlisted the help of fans' mothers to calm tempers and end violence at the stadium. It has worked well. At the last march, there were no fan arrests.
The stadium is a peaceful place. You have to forget about the problems, the fights. You have to leave that at home, then go to the stadium and enjoy it peacefully, to watch our team, to cheer and support them.
It is very exciting, very exciting. It is the first time my mom is here in the stadium with me. I think that if this happened all the time, there wouldn't be any more violence.
Ending on technology news. A group of researchers from Oxford University have created new smart glasses that benefits the visually impaired. This gadget is equipped with a camera, compass, GPS and many infrared sensors. The glasses utilize a three-dimensional camera to detect the structure and position of nearby objects. Currently, there are 30 million blind people in Europe. This cutting-edge technology could improve their lives. More on these and other stories on our website, telesortv.net/English. For Telesor English, I'm Sarah Begum. A very good night to you all.